Hi, I'm Brian Murray. I'm the CEO of HarperCollins. Well, since we're a big publishing company, I actually think it's an advantage that we have a lot of people with a lot of experience in book publishing that have been in the business for, hundreds of years if you add up all the experience that we have. And the experience and the capabilities that we've developed over decades in the print world makes us really well suited to transition to this digital world, because fundamentally we're in the business of helping authors tell stories and reach the widest possible audience. And so, when we think about what we've done in the print world for decades, that's exactly what we're now doing in the digital world. What's changed is how consumers are consuming information, and there's new tools that are available out there, whether it's e-readers or whether it's new ways to market our books. But we're incredibly well positioned with so many people that have been publishing, editing, and marketing books to be able to make this transition. So I actually think we have a bit of an advantage as we make our way through this transition from print to digital. When I think about what we do, it's really about the editing, marketing, and distribution of an author's work. And so what happens with an author, the actual writing of a book, there's not a whole lot of change, and things are the same. It's an author with an idea, and they're expressing it on a page or in a word processor. However, when you think about the consumer and how the consumer can experience that story, there are so many new ways for that to happen. So we're at this point where our editors are really working with the author, and for us it's all about the best voices, the best authors, and the best stories. Yet the consumers now are able to engage with that story on different devices now that are connected to the web, devices that allow video. There are so many things that we can imagine today when you think about the container, but we don't necessarily start with the container. We start with a really good idea, a really good author, and what we do is try to figure out how best can we reach the broadest possible audience and bring that author's idea to the most number of readers. So these new containers that are out there are just new vehicles for us to be able to do what we've been doing for decades. We're experimenting with those kinds of models right now. So one example is in our Avon imprint that publishes romance books. We have a specific line called Avon Impulse, and that line is designed to with that idea in mind, where you kind of lead with the ebook and you try to determine how broad an audience can you reach with an ebook. There's also a print edition available, but it's really e-first or e-primarily, and then the print book will follow. And we think there's all kinds of innovative things that we can do there. We can do shorter works, we can do books faster from the time a manuscript comes in to the time it hits the market. We can also publish books in sequence much faster. Maybe there's a book every month rather than a book every year when we go to this digital world. So yeah, I absolutely see a time where the timing of formats, how you market is going to change, and I think that's incredibly exciting that these digital platforms give us these new vehicles to reach consumers faster and in different ways, and where they're spending a lot of their time, which is connected to whether it's phones or iPads or Nooks. We're able to publish much faster and kind of meet the consumer demand for more content, because there's tremendous demand out there for content. Yet we're also able to bring to bear what we can do on the print side. So if we see one of these Avon Impulse titles doing really well and kind of catching an audience, we will have the print book available at the same time, and we'll be able to grow that print reader as well. So there are a lot of opportunities now that we have that we didn't have just a couple of years ago, because there's such a large number of installed e-readers and all of these different platforms that consumers can choose to access our works. Well, look, we're in trade book publishing, and we don't get a positive ROI on a lot of the books that we do. So we have a culture where we're always experimenting. We're experimenting, with different authors all the time. So it's not difficult for us to move from experimenting on and taking risks on big authors to experimenting with what other ways might a consumer enjoy that story. So I think really our culture suits our ability to try new things in these digital world, in this new emerging digital world. And so I'm not worried about that. I worry about making sure we're trying enough new things, because the rate of change today is what is really one of the biggest challenges I think we face. The installed base of readers is growing so quickly. The different devices, there are always new features coming on board. The real challenge for us is how to move fast enough with technology and fast enough with what consumers are looking for. So I'm not worried about us not taking enough risks. I'm worried about the opposite, of making sure that we're on the same wavelength that the technology is changing. So those are the kinds of worries I have, not about being gun shy about trying dozens of apps that might be related to our books. I just hope we're going fast enough. Well, I think that discoverability in the digital world is a challenge today. There are relatively few merchandising avenues for us in ebook retailers. And so you think about consumers are trying to discover books on devices, whether they're phones or tablets. They're talking about screens that are 3 inches or maybe 10 inches at most. And it's very difficult for a consumer to experience kind of a showroom, which we're used to seeing when you walk into a physical bricks and mortar bookstore. You can't really experience that showroom on a device. And so I think it does create problems for our bricks and mortar booksellers, but I actually think it's a tremendous opportunity that we need to work with bricks and mortar booksellers to figure out how to better convey, why do you go to a bricks and mortar bookseller? And I'm confident that, in working with retailers, bricks and mortar retailers, we're going to be able to find a way to make sure that they're going to be here for decades to come. But we are at this point right now where things are changing so quickly. We are seeing, some retail brands that all around the world that have been in existence for decades are in a bit of trouble. But I'm hopeful we're going to see some sorting out. And I think the strongest are going to survive. There's reports that the independent booksellers, we're seeing growth in that channel. I think that's very healthy. So I think we're going through a cycle of change. But I think it's really important that bricks and mortar booksellers are here for the future, because they are a really important way for consumers to discover new authors. I don't think it can be replicated completely in a digital world.
The 26 lend cap has been somewhat controversial, certainly with libraries, very controversial. Can you describe the thinking that went behind the number, and then also if you've seen any, if you've heard any other feedback that would point to this actually being a good solution for libraries?
Yeah, libraries are a really important channel for HarperCollins. We talked about discovery of books. Libraries are where a lot of discovery happens in many communities across the country. So, HarperCollins is committed to that library channel. The challenge is that we're trying to balance the needs of all of our stakeholders. So librarians and their patrons are stakeholders, as are authors and as are booksellers. And as this business transitions from physical to digital, it's forcing us to think about different business models and to try to make sure that all those stakeholders have a role to play in the future. So when we were looking at the library channel, the idea of kind of having a subscription, almost like a subscription model, is actually a unique business model. Right now, it is the only channel where we have offered this kind of business model, and we're struggling to find the right business model that can work for libraries. So the rationale behind it was, let's find something that's unique and different that libraries might adopt. And we put it out there, and we're now listening to everyone to see what they have to say, and we're going to continue to listen over the coming months, and we encourage librarians to try it, see if it works. And then we'll adjust. We're always listening to all of our stakeholders, and we want to find a way to find new business models and ways to reach patrons or ebook readers or physical book readers wherever they may be searching to find a new book. When we look at the future, there's clearly new capabilities that we want to bring into HarperCollins, and we will do that either through retraining existing people, hiring from the outside. We also will look at companies to acquire. I think we need to, as a publisher that's going through the kind of change this industry is, we need to make sure that we have the best people and the best set of capabilities in the company as possible. And we don't know where those capabilities are going to come from. So we're going to look everywhere that we can, and we are going to make sure that the people that we have that have decades of experience in the print world can bridge to that digital world. But we also want to bring people into the company that have grown up in that digital world and have a different set of experiences. So I think our job is to make sure that we have the right mix of experiences and people in the company so that we can do the best possible job for our authors.